Alrighty, for our next session, we're diving into the responsible AI, managing the fine print of artificial intelligence. Our keynote speaker, Atul Apte, is the esteemed founder and CEO of Adarza, and will take us through the building of a robust framework for AI that allows our highest ethical standards and identifying the scenarios where practicing responsible AI is most crucial. So join us with Atul leading us the way of the world of AI that is not only intelligent, but also responsible and ethical. It looks like he's still getting mic'd up, so if you guys want to exchange any type of business cards or anything like that, by all means, use your time wisely. I know we're on our last day, and we do have coffee refills just in case you need anything more. I know it's been a stretch, but you guys are doing great. Alrighty, and here comes the man. Please give him a big round of applause. I know there's only a couple of you. Awesome, enjoy.
Thanks. Hey, good morning, everybody. Day 3 in Las Vegas. I know how it is. You know, I'm a local resident here, as some of my friends are. Looking forward to spending the next 20 minutes on the topic of responsible AI. The last 2 days has been very informative for me. Okay? As I prepared for this topic, I was not sure what kind of questions are going to be asked in this context. Heard a lot about ethics, heard a lot about concerns about would responsible AI stifle innovation, right? So there are concerns on both sides. Concerns on, oh, well, this is too restrictive, this is going to cause us to lose innovation. On the other side, there is, well, what about the ethics and the harm, the potential harm that AI can bring on a larger scale? So I'm going to spend the next 15, 20 minutes creating a viewpoint on how responsible AI actually will be an engine for innovation. At the same time, it would be a trusted engine, meaning this is the process by which we can eliminate concerns about AI, at the same time use AI responsibly and promoting innovation. How do you do that? The first picture I want to share with you, I like to kind of capture some of the moments which, you know, in picture format, because they kind of highlight how we have come to where we are with AI. And the first picture that came to mind was when ChatGPT was unleashed. Many of us were caught like deer in the headlight moment, right? Even those who were involved in AI for a number of years weren't prepared for ChatGPT when it was launched. So that moment was a very eye-opening moment. What happened next was even more, even more curious. First of all, some of us reacted by what we typically do. You know, when push comes to shove, we kind of put the cart before the horse. There is an immediate reaction. And I come from many years in healthcare. And prior to that, I was in logistics and finance. And one of the first few conversations that happened within the healthcare sector were top-down conversations. The board of directors of large companies asking questions like, so what are we doing with Gen AI? How do I get this back? Okay, thanks. What are we doing with Gen AI? And the typical answer, which I was very surprised, instantaneously, people were responding with, this is the use case. This is the use case which is going to be the Gen AI use case. I wasn't quite sure that we had taken the time to really understand Gen AI and then hone in on what is the right use case. That is an example of people rushing to put the cart before the horse. I'll give you a more specific example. In the healthcare space, one of the use cases that was hyped up or talked about was how we can use AI in radiology. Okay, radiology is all about imaging, as we know, medical imaging. So it was quite natural for people to think, if I apply AI to a rich data set like images, I could probably find that AI would do a better job than radiologists. Big investments were made, in here in the US, in Europe. National health systems launched projects, AI, thumbs up. 2 weeks ago, I read a report from, I'm not going to mention the country here, but there, you will find it on various forums. There was a report published from a country in Europe about the problems of launching AI in radiology. Okay, how the initial expectations of AI were not fulfilled. Okay, they went as far as pulling back all the funding for that project. So this goes to show that how we respond to some of these new innovations matter a lot. Okay, we need to be more responsible. Very quickly on the remaining two pictures here. There was a group of people who were literally lost in Gen AI. No idea what it was. It was like roaming around in a black room, okay, dark room. And then there was another set of reactions. And this was with people who were really experts in AI. They all of a sudden found themselves in a room full of shiny objects, okay? And their problem was we didn't know which ones to pick. There are like 5 or 6 LLMs out there. There are vertical SLMs popping up everywhere. All shiny objects. Are you prepared to pick the right one? So that is the overall, in my view, the overall story of where we are today in terms of moments. Where we go next is really, the question, and how do we go to that next step responsibly? So I look at responsible AI as a means to manage the fine print of artificial intelligence. And that fine print is a little bit more complex than we imagine. It's not just about technology, it's not just about ethics, it's not just about regulations. There are a few more things involved in it. The first and the foremost I want to put forward for you to think about is the computing power. We have heard a little bit about this over some of the panels. How do we get sustainable energy and to power this capability? But if you are a business, part of responsible AI is to think, how are you going to secure this power? You need this power. Without this, AI is just an experiment. If you do not have the adequate access to this kind of a power, you can do POCs all you want, but you're not going to go beyond that. There's something else that is also happening, and hopefully this won't be another deer in the headlight moment 2 years or 3 years or 5 years down the line. Quantum machines are becoming real. About 2 years ago, I was on a similar, on this topic of quantum, I was in a conference in San Francisco. Everyone was blown away by the progress on quantum mechanics when it comes to quantum computing. Okay? This is a much more difficult technology to understand. If we think Gen AI is difficult to comprehend, quantum is going to take it 10 steps, 50 steps higher. So the complexity is going to continue to get higher and higher as we go down that path. The other thing to keep in mind is, to me, artificial intelligence is like human intelligence on digital steroids. Okay? It really powers our intelligence 100 times, 1,000 times over. Now that's a scary proposition, but also a very potential, a high potential for improving a lot of things. But one thing to keep in mind is the human in the loop conversation. We have got to look at both the capabilities and the vulnerabilities. If we lose one or the other, that is not how we want to approach responsible AI. You've got to look at both. What are we capable of doing, and what are our shortcomings? What are the vulnerabilities? So we can address both of those. The last thing I want to highlight here is still a lot of things are quite fuzzy. It's not like we have clarity on everything. It's a matter of regulations. put all the rules in place and everything is fine. There are a lot of fuzzy boundaries in all of this. Two things that I want to highlight. One is about knowledge acquisition. As we all know, machine learning and the other processes in AI, one key outcome of that is knowledge. Okay, knowledge that we get from, the previous panel was talking about all the historical data. The problem with historical data, in my mind, is none of those historical and current systems were designed for AI. It's been 40, 50 years since we have been developing these. So just imagine a scenario where you have a whole library of books that were never meant for education. They're just there. Okay, so you start opening those books and you say, well, I've got all this knowledge. Is that really verifiable knowledge? Okay, that's the type of questions we need to ask. There are holes in our current databases. Nobody wants to talk about it, but everybody knows deep in our minds that there are holes all over the place. And now here we are trying to train AI on this kind of a database. So these are the kind of things that all, in my mind, make up the complex fine print of AI. And we've got to manage this and make this the engine for innovation. Okay. The next thing I want to put in front of you is a set of guidelines of how to manage this fine print. Okay, so I'm taking a couple of examples. We are very familiar with responsible driving. If you are in Vegas, you are also very familiar with responsible gambling. Okay, and there is a little theme there. The theme is that the idea of responsible driving and responsible gambling is not to stop you from driving or gambling. Okay, so the concern that, responsible AI is going to stop me from innovation, I think that is highly incorrect. Okay, the idea behind this is that you associate responsibility with specific actions that will cause harm. Okay, so you don't drink under the influence. Doesn't stop you from drinking, but don't drive if you do that. That's the idea. Same as gambling. Have fun. You're in Vegas. You're supposed to have fun in Vegas, but don't go overboard. You use that same line of thought for responsible AI. Okay, and what are the three actions? These are not exhaustive, but what are the type of actions that you would need responsibilities? One would be amplification of human errors. It's going to happen. We make mistakes all the time. There's nobody perfect. My boss told me, Atul, you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. So there it is. Okay, so we all make mistakes. The question is, AI may amplify my mistakes, and they may amplify it on a scale that I have never thought before. So there are certain actions which require us to deep dive into responsible behavior when it comes to AI. I want to quickly, the other 2 points here. One about AI creating some embarrassing moments. It's going to happen. Okay, when Gemini did what it did in creating some interesting images, it wasn't the last time you will see this kind of thing happen. Okay, and it's not just Gemini that will do this. Every AI model, no matter what it is and who has developed it, is likely to create embarrassing moments now and in the future. We have got to be prepared to absorb them. Okay, it's not the whole earth has fallen down or the sky is falling down and everything is going to explode. There's no such thing. You just have to expect these going forward. The other thing to keep in mind is the biggest challenge we have with responsible AI is how do we operationalize this? Okay, so it's one thing to put things on paper. I think many companies have done it. Many organizations have done it. Governments have done it. European Union has a huge AI Act that is passed by the parliament. So it's all there. Now the question is, how do you operationalize that? It's not an easy thing to do, but it's the most important thing to do if we want to see responsible AI playing its role as an innovation engine. Okay? So there are a few what I call high priority scenarios where RAI or responsible, I just created an acronym, but responsible AI has a bigger impact. To me, the most important thing companies can do today is to launch responsible AI before investing money in AI. Okay, that's my humble opinion. Okay, if you want to invest money in AI, the right way to do it is to have responsible AI set up first. And what we mean by that is how we introduce AI in different contexts, in different scenarios. You want to introduce AI correctly to a company. Okay, so when a board level person asks these questions, what are we doing with Gen AI? The response is not, this is the use case I'm doing. The response should be that this is how we are introducing AI to the company. And Gen AI is one piece, and there could be other things, but that is the kind of response you should have to those questions, not here is the use case. Okay. Similarly, how do you introduce AI into a particular product or a service? Before you stick a label on a product saying this is AI enabled, you've got to spend time in introducing what are you doing with AI in this product? Okay, where does AI fit into this? If you don't have a good answer to it, you're going to cause more confusion to the customers. So as you see, as you drill down deeper and deeper, the introduction to AI needs to be done at all levels. Can't just be done at the highest level and left. You're going to do for the company, for the product, to the customers, and ultimately to the consumers. You should have enough clarity in all of that. The next set of actions are around how we use AI. And I again want to go back to the idea of knowledge base. Okay. One of the questions that doesn't get a very good answer is, what knowledge are we using? Ask any product company. So what is the source for this knowledge base? Typically, it's a very vague answer. Okay. Or if it is a clear answer, it is mainly a whole public, I'm using like what ChatGPT does, a whole public database. But there is more nuances to that question. The first and the most important thing is, are we using historical data? Are we using data in the present moment as transactions are happening? Or are we using data in the more futuristic context? Or it could be a mix of everything. So I think these are the kind of things that must be clarified when we talk about responsible AI being the engine for innovation. It's not just about the process. It's not just about the workflow. You've got to have all these things clearly stated. Okay. The last point I want to make is AI is still evolving. The story of AI isn't done. It's just beginning. We heard from yesterday, I think it was the last panel, I believe. They were talking about how the next 3 to 5 years is going to shake things up, and we need to be prepared. Well, if that's the case, we have got to evolve with that. This RAI concept has to keep evolving, and it has to be a forethought and not an afterthought. You can't come in after you have released everything and say, okay, now let's think about responsible AI. It doesn't make sense. You've got to make this a forethought. Okay. So I have a little bit of I don't have too many slides. I want to make this a more discussion rather than me talking. So I'm going to cover, I think there are just a couple of more, and then we'll get into a discussion phase. But typically what I like to do is think about the problem space. So if I want to think about the problem space of responsible AI, few things jump out. One is clearly the accountability. Who within the boundaries of the nation, it could be the parliament. So the European Union Parliament has done its job in kind of pulling the accountability and saying this is the act. Who is going to be responsible for this, and who's going to be accountable for this in the company sense? Somebody has to take this accountability. Is it one person or is it a consortium? So these are the kind of things that we've got to figure out. The other thing I want to also include in this problem space is certification of AI systems. This is not as easy as any other software that we have certified for the last 50 years. Okay, I'm very curious to see what kind of test plans are there for the product. Okay, for a software whose outcomes depend on a knowledge base that is continuously evolving, how do you write a certification or a test plan? How do you say that this product is ready to be deployed? Because if the knowledge changes tomorrow, the answer could be different. Is it right? Is it wrong? Who knows? So it's going to get more and more complex. So that is going to be a problem space to dig into. And I want to quickly mention something which is really a topic for not just the technologists, but is a broad topic. And that topic is about how do you operationalize ethical intent, right? We have all heard about in the last 2 days, ethics, ethics, ethics. We can talk all day long about ethics, but if we do not have a mechanism to use that intent and operationalize it, there is no way to put it into practice. And the way I think about it is it's about self-governance. It's okay to have regulations. Some regulations are indeed needed, but the more important piece here is self-governance. Okay? If we do not have that kind of a governance mechanism, we are going to constantly rely on somebody telling us what is the right thing and what is the wrong thing to do. And I don't think that's that's going to give us the full answer. So the actual framework for responsible AI is not just rules and regulations. It is a little bit about self-governance. It's about a governance systems in which you have to be engaged. It's about collaborating on best practices, and there are some of this happening, as you will see in the next slide. And the fundamentals. So you really start by learning the fundamentals of RAI and then get into the remaining pieces of the framework. And to me, this is how the robust framework for RAI will emerge. It's not there yet, but this is still early days for RAI. And this is something that is near and dear to me. We've got a lot of work upcoming in this space. So glad to collaborate with anybody who wants to contribute and move this along. So where are we with RAI? It's a loaded question, but here are some of the the indicators or pointers. We all know regulations are forming. I put the EU Act right up front. The White House has also created a blueprint for that. But there are more consortiums forming. So in the healthcare sector, some of the major providers have now partnered with Microsoft, and they are agreeing to collaborate on best practices. That is what we need to see more across industries, across industries with technology and industrial companies coming together. And at the same time, while all of this work is going on, as I said, we have to be prepared for mistakes by AI. Don't let that become a distraction. Okay, that is important part of being responsible AI framework is not to allow the failures to become distractions. Just accept them, learn from them, and move on. Okay? So here's the last slide, key takeaways. Make RAI the first principle and lead the journey through this principle. Okay? Make it the engine of innovation. Don't make it an afterthought and get caught, and then regret that you didn't have RAI first. So make it the first principle. Find the right partners. Nobody can do this alone. Like what Microsoft did. Form a consortium. Get people talking together, working together. Find the right partner. And then deploy this into practice. Don't just put it on paper. Put it into practice. Things will improve. It will get better. And last but not the least, don't ignore the fine print of AI. Okay? Be very mindful. This is the way to do innovation in AI. Thank you.
So, one more time for our speaker. That was great.